We've got a special election. Christine Connolly has been holding this seat for, I guess, for about 10 years, if I've read in the paper, and she got reelected last fall in November, and shortly thereafter, she resigned, and she has been offered and accepted a judgeship in the state of Connecticut. Workman's comp, I guess, is the primary function of what she's going to be doing, opening up a seat. So we've got a special election, and the GOP has nominated you. I don't even know who the Democratic candidate is. So I don't know if you want to even mention their name, or his name, or her name.
Yeah. Well, I'm very grateful for the opportunity. So the 40th district splits the city of Groton in half. Basically, it's the top half of the city of Groton. And since I was 11 years old, I've been working there. My parents started a company in the city of Groton. So it's sort of like my backyard, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity. And when Representative Connolly decided to step down, I thought this was a great opportunity to throw my hat in the ring and see if I couldn't participate in making the town better.
Yeah. Now, so you're a local guy. You've grown up here. You're going to school here.
So no, I grew up in Westbrook, so mouth of the Connecticut River. I went to Westbrook High School, but my dad used to work at Soup Ship, and in 1981 he left, started the company Command Technology on Thames Street, and I was 11, and I was, it's sort of like the farmer's son and free labor, and so I started working at the office and cutting the lawn, and he opened a computer shop. We had a computer company called Computer Tech, and right around 81 was when all the companies were transferring from typewriters to PCs. So we started selling PCs. I guess one of the names was Columbia. I don't know. They were like all the clone, the 286, 386 machines. So that's what I grew up doing. I grew up
working old machines.
Yeah, exactly. Working, putting those machines together, putting the graphics cards in, setting the dip switches for the mice and the monitors. It was the old, the monochrome monitors, and then we had a maintenance contract with Mitchell College, and we supplied printers and other things to the Navy base. So I've been here my whole life, and it was a fun existence. As a kid, it was a fun to play with all the technology. Right.
Now, you've got also a little background in economics. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I did my undergraduate in English Textual Studies at Syracuse and political science, and then I was, at the time I was finishing my undergraduate, the European Monetary Union was coming together. Europe still had multiple currencies, and they were talking about the mechanisms to bring together the euro.
Yep.
So I found it really fascinating, the whole concept of the power of economics to unite. You had, 2 world wars and centuries of fighting in Europe, and then through these economic alliances coming together into a currency union, it was taking shape, this other entity that was sort of creating prosperity and peace. And so I'm always a first principle thinking kind of person, so I wanted to understand how that worked better. And so I studied over in London, got my master's in economics, and it was
in London.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I went to the London School of Economics. I'm very grateful for the opportunity. It was a great time, because that was, like I said, right at the time that the currency union was coming together. And I think there's something, especially for that, being outside of the United States, it was sort of a neutral territory for everybody to talk about how this was affecting, the different.
Was your class primarily Americans, or were you?
No, that's the good thing.
So you were.
It was a pretty good mix. It was a pretty good mix. It was we Americans were the minority over there. So it was good. We had most of my classmates were from EU countries that were ready to experience the consequences of European monetary union and opening up of trade barriers and all that other stuff. So it was, yeah, it was interesting to hear their perspective, because it was going to impact their lives directly, more so than mine, obviously, right away. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I highly recommend any young person has the opportunity to study abroad, to travel, do it. You know, doesn't, you know, the youth hostels, you can stay different places, you make wonderful friends, and you have contacts for the rest of your life, and it gives you a broader perspective of what's out there in the world. And
did you have an opportunity to travel Europe while you were there?
Yeah, I mean, I think the classic experience is, you know, you get a rail pass, and you know, your rail pass as a student is pretty inexpensive, and then you can stay at youth hostels, and they're very inexpensive as well, and you meet other students. For me in particular, the timing was pretty amazing because the wall had just fallen, right? So a friend of mine and I, we flew down to Istanbul and took the train through Eastern Europe, and it was very inexpensive. But the other part about it that was wonderful is
was it as bland and blah as it's been presented to America at the time, and
well, yeah,
and prior for that matter?
Well, yeah, it was, because everything was behind, you know, the Iron Curtain.
Yes.
And the other thing that was fascinating is, like, when I was growing up, we thought we were going to be in the Cold War forever, and I don't know if you remember that time. It sort of quickly all of a sudden shifted. So there was all these possibilities that came. So we traveled, and we'd stay at a youth hostel. We'd meet friends from Bulgaria and sit and talk, and, like, in a way we never thought we would have the opportunity to do before, because they were, you know, the Cold War, they were behind the wall, and it was just a really enriching experience, and everything was possible. You know, obviously things shifted some ways in a good way, but definitely with Russia in a very bad way. But yeah, it was a great experience as a young person to be.
I think it's fascinating, because I mean, it's given you some insight that you can take into what you're hoping to achieve here in a few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely.
In that having that European experience, as well as your work experience in computers and in technology.
Yeah.
I mean, in some aspects, I mean, the world is getting very small through technology, but it doesn't seem necessarily to bring all the people together.
You know, that's really well said. Unfortunately, we have. I remember, as an example, one of the big sellers for us when we first opened our computer store in the early 80s was these Bernoulli boxes. And I don't know if you recall, they had, like, it was a platter this big, and it was 10 megabyte. And everyone was so excited. You had 10 megabyte on this platter, and now your iPhone has ridiculous amounts. So I lived through that whole transition to, like, it was science fiction, like what we carry in our pocket. I remember many times just imagining, what would you do with all this data, and what would you do with all this storage? And now we're at the point where that's enabling AI and these other technologies, but it was just...
I've been led to believe that there's more oompa in this than there is, was on the Apollo going to the moon.
Yeah.
So think about that. That we're holding everybody, almost everybody on the planet has one of these things.
It's mind-boggling, but yeah, but the other problem with it, though, is, so we're really good at generating wealth here in this country, and generating, technology is ubiquitous. We're not really good at making sure that everybody shares in that, and I think that that's one of the things that we need to work better at, is to make sure that the benefits of technology sort of get applied to creating access and opportunity for everybody. And I think one of the areas, and this gets me...
Do you look at that domestically or globally?
I'm talking more, now I'm getting more into where I think I add value running for office here. I think a lot of the dialogue that we have in our political sphere is so out of touch. Like, Blockbuster Video came and went in our lifetime, right? But we still have conversations about unions and labor and these discussions that they're important, and we need to fight for union jobs, and we need to protect workers' rights. But technology has eaten the world, and we need to apply it in ways and have better discussions of how we think differently about the problems we have and apply the technology, and we get better on the local level of negotiating better deals for our municipalities. We're terrible at it. You know, we get taken advantage of a lot of times when we buy goods and services, because we don't necessarily bring our A game, and that's because we don't necessarily always have legislators who understand the technological impacts or
frequently government is behind the curve at all levels.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got to catch up. I mean, and we don't have in the administrative level, again, across the board, they're part of government, and it's not just the legislative end. I mean, they're also not cutting edge.
Very true. And in my mind, it's very clear what the problem is, especially locally. You know, we divide ourselves along party lines, and so let's put it this way. So a company in the private sector that's bidding on a job, they have the best attorneys, they have the best executives, they come to the table, they know the spreadsheets, and they negotiate with the municipality. The municipal side, we start off, are you a Democrat, are you Republican? And by the time we get our team hobbled together, we're the bad news bears, and then you wonder why we're not negotiating in the best interest for our community. We have to do better about the way we frame how we put our teams together, and people who can add value and are knowledgeable about subject matter areas. We need to bring them forward, and they need to be encouraged to participate and help, make up the gap. Otherwise, we're going to be, the system will take advantage of us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think when you evaluate Hartford, which is what your objective is as a state rep, the party leaders exert an significant amount of influence in terms of what issues will be taken up and what won't be taken up. So I mean, I think a lot of potentially good ideas get left on the cutting room floor because they don't fit their where they're going, and we're coming from we're coming from a minority party,
right,
which makes it even more challenging to get something open for discussion. So it creates a challenge to try to do and get good ideas moving forward. And just reading through some of your stuff here, I mean, I think your goals and aspirations are admirable. And if you can get the GOP leadership to buy in, and see if they can get the Democrats to buy in.
I'm a pretty tenacious guy. I
suspect that, because it can be daunting at times and discouraging, coming from a minority point of view, and you don't want to be negative all the time, that the other side is always wrong.
Right.
That doesn't really accomplish a lot.
I think you have to start from the standpoint of, locally especially, we're all on the same team. We all love our community. We might have different ideas of how to serve that community, how we fight for those interests. But yeah, you don't start making the other side wrong. And really, as much as you can, try to make it not about sides internally. We're procuring goods and services for the community, and from outside vendors, and we need to work together and figure out how we do that in the best way, the most economical way, and we need to buy goods and services and have metrics. Are we getting the value for them that we're paying for? Is this what we expected the outcome to be? That's the thing about being in the private sector most of my life. that's what you're driven by. You're driven by, you're buying a good and service, and are you getting what you're paying for? And if it's not, you make adjustments. And I think that it's really important to remember that most of what we do in government is that. It is an economic transaction. We are constantly doing the value proposition. And so it directly correlates to good business practices. In business, you're always trying to find the win-win, right? Even on the outside, you want to find a way that developers can make money and the town can get what they want. The town, we get the housing we need, and we attract the developers, and they can make a profit. And it's not impossible, but you have to understand what their objectives are, and you have to understand what powers we have to set the rules to protect the community, and then put the deals together.
Well, you're clear thinking on all this stuff, and also at the state level, you're dealing with, and interesting with your particular seat that you're seeking, you're going to be representing two communities partially,
right,
not in whole. So you've got lines blurred there. There are issues and machinations in Groton, and as well as in southern New London.
Yeah.
But in essence, you're representing all of Groton and all of New London, and you're also having to deal with how things impact the state of Connecticut. So there's a lot of moving parts.
True, but it's a coastal community. There's resilience, sustainability issues. There's everything is it's not that different, and providing value and taking care of the community's needs it's the same approach. You just have to listen to the specific subsections of our, like for instance, the Mystic Oral School area.
Yep.
That community up there is especially focused on what's going to happen with the Mystic Oral School property. We've had a lot of discussion about that, how it's been handled in the past, and I am very aware, and I've always stood for responsible development in that area, and especially as a state rep, I would be very focused on making sure that there's local control, because that's the first issue. That's the first area where local control, when it's lost, could end up with the wrong type of development that nobody wants for our community. So, drilling down into these particular areas that different sections of the 40th has are important, but in general, we all want to give our children opportunities. We want, balanced budgets. We want lower taxes. We want, energy costs to come down. So there's a layer where everything is very, very similar in need. So
Now, it's not in your district, but a big state project on the northern side of the river is State Pier.
it actually is in my district. State
Along
Pier
the
is in the
sliver.
40th. Yeah,
No,
the
I
40th
stand-
has a strange little ribbon that goes along the
And
thing.
you know what? I stand corrected, but
Yeah.
you're absolutely correct. But I mean, that is has been depending on one's point of view, and my point of view, since this is my show, it's been a running circus. It's costing the taxpayers of the state of Connecticut
Right.
a fortune. I mean, the state committed the Orstat to, I think it's about 95 million. It's the costs have run up over 350 on the back of the taxpayers, and no end in sight. And the wind program is seem to be getting a little bit sketchy, and Trump is not supporting it.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen? I believe that the firm down there has got a 10-year lease. And what recourse, if any, does the state have?
Well, that, should I have the opportunity, I'd love to sink my teeth into that and get some answers. You know, in my business, a little bit back to command technology, we've dealt with defense contractors our whole career. I've negotiated with Lockheed. I've fought lawsuits against them. You know, I know how to dig through a pile of junk and find out where the problems lie, and I'm not afraid to point out you know, wrongdoing. You know, and I don't have all the answers on the state pier right now, but I'd sure like to get some answers for the taxpayers. It sure seems pretty ridiculous to go from 90 million to 300 million, and that's an example of, as I said before, the bad news bears negotiating with the A-team over here, right? Again, it just, we're not doing what we need to do, having representation that understands how to negotiate contracts. And you're gonna get rolled by Orsted and other companies, and it's not even, I don't even want to make it sound conspiratorial. They can't help themselves, right? If you just open your pockets, they're profit-seeking entities, right? So they come to the table, and if we don't have our pencil sharpened and know what we're doing, you know, their team's going to negotiate best for them, and that's what keeps happening. And the other issue,
I mean, Eversource was initially in on that as a partner, and they've gotten out. And when you see what's happening with our utility rates, and that's an issue not only here but all over the state.
but let me just go back to state pier for one of the.
Sure.
So there's the issue of how we got here with the state pier, okay? And we need to find that out. But also there's the other issue looking forward. Now we have this resource, okay? How are we marketing it? Like, okay, it's here. Let's also be positive and make sure how are we attracting businesses and shipping and things that can utilize this space to bring in jobs, right? So we have to do two things. We have to clean up our act in the past, learn our lessons, find out where the corruption is, hold people accountable, put some legislation on that prevents that from happening, and then now we need to utilize this resource. It's here. We spent the money. Let's make it make money for us.
Well, are we locked in with wind, or is it flexible enough if wind ends up?
It seems to change daily on the news. I'm a little afraid to watch the news.
It's interesting. I met the new executive director of the Connecticut Port Authority at the Grassroots Eastern. Right, the gentleman. I don't know him, but he was very enthusiastic. And based on his enthusiasm, I'm hoping to see that this gentleman can achieve some success.
Right.
And his predecessor, Ulysses Hammond, who had in a prior life been a vice president at Connecticut College, and a very he's a gentleman and a scholar, and a guy who I know and trust. And I wonder sometimes why these guys are getting themselves into the weeds, so to speak. But I'm hoping they can get the ship righted in whatever capacity.
So in a lot of ways, to simplify it, you know, we generate and sell our energy at wholesale rates and buy it back at retail rates with junk fees on top of it. That's an oversimplification, but that's, in a lot of ways, Connecticut is a sucker at the table for regional distribution of electricity and power.
Our rates are
So we
not competitive.
We need to fix that. Like that. It's like I said, we need to get into what are the structural issues that created that, and get out of it and change it so that it works for our. You know, it's not only is it terrible for working men and women, but it makes us less competitive for our industries.
That's correct.
To have such high. Energy costs. So again, these are technical issues and people fall asleep if we drill down into it, but I like drilling into it. And that's, I think, what you need in a state rep and what we need more of across party lines. That we need experience in these areas to negotiate better deals and fix problems and not get caught up in, it's like rope-a-dope when it's like, it's almost like it benefits other people for us to fight politically here, because then we don't know what we're doing at the table, the negotiation table. So I really that's one of the reasons I really try to stay away from hyper partisan. First of all, it's not my personality, but also it doesn't serve any purpose. We're really here to do better by our community. I believe that Democrats or Republicans, we don't want to overpay for things, right? We may have differences in programs we want to fund, but we want the programs we fund to work, right? We want the outcomes we're buying. And that's what's frustrating to me. I see we're buying programs, we don't have good metrics on whether they're succeeding, and then we just throw more money at it and argue, well, you don't want to throw more money at it, therefore you don't like children, or you don't like this issue. And it's not getting us anywhere. And so that's not my game. That's not who I will be as an elected official. And I know that I can do a great job, and I'm excited for this opportunity, and that's why I jumped in again.
Now, do you see a role for the state with the Coast Guard Museum in downtown New London at any level?
In what way?
Well, whether it be financial, marketing, almost could be anything. I mean, it's a federal entity, but it's a foundation that's building it and running it. It's not the U.S. Coast Guard. It's not part of the academy. I mean,
well,
it's an independent entity.
Yeah. So,
I mean, they have, I believe, pledged $20 million to build a pedestrian bridge, which, again, many folks are less than enthused about, to connect a parking garage in downtown to the facility. Mm-hmm. And the city's going to get saddled with owning and maintaining it.
Right. Well, I mean, to the extent that that issue becomes something that as an elected official I have some oversight on, I'll be able to answer that more clearly, because I'll drill into it. But what I would say is we need to, having that here can be an amazing economic driver. So I get back down to marketing, Anthony at the state level, are they going to put it in the roster of tourist destinations and have it make money? And also put the pitch out here, are we going to get some tax revenue from back to our local areas for sales tax that's being used for, Mystic is a great driver. It's one of the biggest tourist destinations in the state, and most other states allow local participation in a share of sales tax revenue to help mitigate, climate change issues and traffic issues to the community around these tourist destinations. So I think those conversations need to be had, and we need to have officials in Hartford explain more vocally why they say it shouldn't happen, rather than us having to only scream for it, right? They need to justify it. It's a little silly, and those things should change. Those are the things I'd fight for. Those are the things I think are a good use of energy. Mm-hmm. Right? I don't use my energy to be negative for negative sake. I have no problem going after bad deals. Branford Manor is one of them. That's an example where the town and the city gave a tax incentive agreement to a developer, and they didn't perform. And mold, it's very well known, the mold issues. We had our most vulnerable in our community suffered with mold conditions at Branford Manor. And we bought services, and it wasn't delivered by the developer. We haven't changed any legislation to make that not happen in the future, and that's not okay. And that needs to change. And that's one of the issues. I've written articles about it. I know it extremely well. I have a background in not only economics, but in real estate. I did adaptive reuse development at various points, and I understand how developers think. And I don't even mean to make related into the bad guy here. They are a profit-seeking company, and they will look for risk-free rates of return. If they can get a municipality to pay for improvements, of course they're going to do that. we can shape the rules. If we don't shape the rules, we're going to be taken advantage of. We can craft some specific legislation at the state level. It would be great at the federal level, but we can, if the federal level isn't containing this, we can do it. Simple things that provide some oversight, some teeth to our town council when they're looking to enforce an agreement. It's not happening. So, again, like I said, that's an area worth a fight. But I'm a positive person, and I think there's lots of ways we can take advantage of a lot of the assets we have in our community and make it work for us.
Now, how do you plan to reach the electorate in this very, very compressed campaign? I mean, we are less than 3 weeks away from the election, which is the 25th. And I wanted to just share with the audience, this came in the mail yesterday into my mailbox. There we go. And I think this gives a pretty good summary of...
He looks like a good guy.
Well, he does. He looks like a good guy here, too. Yeah. But I mean, it gives an outline of who you are and some things you've done or are doing, and why why you'd be an effective representative for the communities.
So to answer your question, obviously, it's in the short time frame here. There's a lot of inside baseball type political things related to running a campaign that's a little different. There's a lot of outreach. It's sort of what you do in a normal campaign on steroids, sort of scrunched in. So I'm outdoor knocking, I'm meeting people, and I'm really asking people to show up. Like you need to get out and vote. Like it's about turnout, and my opponent's doing the same thing, and it's a good opportunity to be more focused on doing those things quicker, I suppose. But it can be a little hectic because. I think at least the last time I ran, it was more time to debate and have full discussions of things. And at this time, you're really getting people out, right? So yeah, there's some tactics involved in that.
Yeah, and a lot of folks are not even aware that this is going on.
Right.
So to be able to tap those folks that are active and are thinking politics almost constantly.
Well, and let's face it, we're all a little bit like it's been a little whirlwind. Whether you're happy or sad, we're a little bit overwhelmed by politics at the moment.
Well,
so
listen, President Trump is an action figure.
Yeah, it's an interesting time to have a special election. I'm grateful for it. It's given me the opportunity to have another pathway to do good things for my community. I really love this community. Like I said, I grew up here, built a business here, been working at my family company my whole life here. I've seen, the Croker Memorial used to be on Thames Street. Yeah. We used to go to Pizza Pipes and Panamome over here. That was like a treat with the scary clowns and the popcorn, like when I was a kid. But anyway, I love this community. I am grateful for the opportunities. I'm grateful to be chairman of the EDC. That's been fun for me. So yeah.
So I mean, you've served in different capacities in the community. I don't believe you've had elective office, but you're giving back. You're a member of the Rotary Club.
I am. Yeah. I'm actually president at the moment. Yeah.
Well, I'm president of the Kiwanis Club in New London. Yeah. So we share something there.
Good job.
I think so.
Yeah. But it's interesting. So one of those things, I don't know, it's interesting to me. I thought about, we do have a bias in if you are involved in public service, your bias is that you think that everybody is looking for a win-win. And a lot of times people are transactional, and it's just always what's in it for me, right? And it's not so much, yes, members of the community, and that's not wrong, it's not me, But some people, that's what they think. And that's how they assess things, and you have to take it into account. But one thing's for sure is most companies that we procure goods and services from it's what's in it for them. They're profit seeking. And we need to be aware of that and craft the way we interact and way we procure and the oversight we give for tax agreements and things like that with that in mind. But yeah, it's easy to just imagine everybody thinks like you and like, yeah, I want to donate my time and I want to sit on a board and commission and, you know, it's a personality thing. Like when you have a calling to do it. So,
now, as you're running right now in this very compressed environment, are you kind of taking a sabbatical from work and this is what you're doing, or are you able to incorporate real or regular life into this campaign, or your campaign into your real life?
I'm fortunate enough at this time. So my parents are still involved in the business. So I work with my mom and dad every day, and I have some great team members that I work with that can take up the slack. And right now we're more of we're sort of in we do cloud computing software. So we are updating the software annually, adding more cybersecurity things every year. So we have cycles of software maintenance. It's less production, so it's easier for me to delegate and supervise and check in. And you know, it's the same thing everywhere. Like you hire good people and you let them do great work, and you don't need to micromanage it. So in some areas, that's sort of given me the ability to do the boards and commissions work that I do and everything else, and sort of why I've started to use this time to do that kind of thing.
Well, that's not me. Well, I guess we've got a call here. Let's see here. Good evening, you're on City Focus. I might need assistance here from Drew if he's...
Now, Marty, that's very brave. When I was a teenager, if you picked up a live call and you would be asking for a
Well, you know, this is a new getup for us, a new phone, and I thought I hit the right one here, but I'm not. Whoever's calling is not. Not.
Marty.
Yes. Hello.
Marty, this is Dennis.
Yes.
I have a question for you. Yes.
Well, please speak up.
Okay. First of all, I forgot his name. I apologize.
It's Bob.
Bob. Bob is the 40th District of Representatives. Is that really a part-time job, or is it a part-time job that you have to work full-time?
Well, I mean, technically speaking, I think state reps are paid part-time, but anybody who does it well understands that, you know, it's not a part-time job. You're full-time engaged, and it gets back to my discussion before. You can't be a part-time representative and negotiate really good contracts with Orsted, or have oversight of Branford Manor, or follow the bouncing ball and all the issues, you know, of housing and everything else here. But unfortunately, you know, this is an interesting area for debate. Unfortunately, the way it's structured right now, it's treated as a part-time job, but it's not.
So if you work more than your part-time hours as speaker, you get paid more, or is it just a flat fee for a part-time job?
Dad, you got to speak up a little bit. Where you're kind of muted, and I don't know how to get you the volume up.
Oh, is that better?
That's better.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I forgot it. Anyways, now I always thought that when a representative gets elected into office around here, or anywhere around here, that they should make a habit of coming back at least once a month to talk to the people that voted them into office, to let them know what's going on and stuff like that. Would you be okay with something like that?
Absolutely. I'm here. I live here. My business is here. I'll always be here. And I love talking to people, and I don't think that I have all the answers. and there's a lot of great members of our community that have good input, and it's sort of a give and take. I look at the job in Hartford as I'll be able to collect information that's being discussed there and bring it back home and say, hey, this is what's happening in Hartford, and this is their approach to something. Is this the way we want to handle it? Especially zoning, things like that. I already have a predisposition to be weary of a Hartford mentality that Hartford can make zoning decisions better than our local officials here. So, but yeah, I think that's a very important thing to be a successful representative. You need to be in your community all the time, just talking with the people that you represent and making sure that you're aligning with what their desires are. We're not elected to you don't just elect a state representative to then take their ideas and their opinion and their approach and ignore everything else and then just check in when there's another election. So yeah, absolutely, should be here all the time.
I think he agrees with you, Dan. I mean,
I like what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't recall ever seeing Christine Connolly in New London. She could come into this set right now and I wouldn't know who she is. So I would say she was not doing a very good job of representing us in the south end of the city.
Well, I know the ones we have now that represent the rest of the city seem to only pop up when it's election time, and I don't like that. I'll instantly not vote for somebody that does that. I want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
Couple more quick questions, Bob. Now, you represent just a small portion of New London in your district, right? The south end, town by the beach. Is that correct?
Correct. The tip.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, are you going to be coming over to that section of New London to talk with those people before, while you're running?
I was just there this afternoon, door knocking and meeting people. Like I said, growing up here, I went to Ocean Beach a lot. I'm familiar with that area, but I'm getting to know the individuals that I would represent, and it's I enjoy that, and yeah, I'll be there all the time. You'll get sick of seeing Bob.
If you're doing a good job, we will never get sick of it.
Yeah.
Okay, my last question. If you get elected, what's one of the first things you'd like to see changed up there to help the people?
So the first thing I'd like to change that I'm extremely passionate about is the Branford Manor issue, because I understand what went wrong there. And the reason why the Branford Manor issue is important is because the municipalities are asked to give tax incentive agreements to developers to promote housing. And we're going to be asked to do that more and more, right? Because there's a housing shortage. But we don't have good oversight. Branford Manor shows what goes wrong when there's bad oversight. We give tax agreements and we don't get value. So the first thing I want to work at, using the Branford Manor case, address that so we close the gap when a federal HUD facility uses local tax incentive agreement money to do upgrades, that our town council has actual teeth and ability to know when it's going south and to actually hold that developer accountable. And people say, I know people think that, and yes, the town council did suspend the Branford Manor, the related company for it, but they actually never, for the tax agreement, they got all the tax abatement money. It never ceased to come to them. So, there's one thing that's important is the only thing worse than no oversight is the illusion of oversight. And there's a lot of illusion of oversight that needs to stop. So that's exactly what the first part will stop. We're going to stop the illusion of oversight, and we're going to actually implement some oversight. And I think that will add a lot of value. $500,000 is a lot of money every year. What could Groton do with $500,000 more every year in their budget?
That's right.
All right, Bob, I wish I could vote for you. I'm not in the right district, but you sound like you're on a good course. I hope people pay attention to you. And good luck, man.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, Bob.
Dennis, thanks for calling, and appreciate your resiliency here while we work out some kinks.
Yes, we'll get it.
All right.
Thanks, Marty.
Good night.
All right, bye.
Okay, I was Dennis from New London, and he's a gentleman who's very passionate about our community in New London. He attends council meetings and does programs, and he's always looking out for the best interests of the community. And he's not afraid to hold the elected officials' feet to the fire,
Yeah,
which I like.
it's good. We need more people like that. You know, so let me just speak about my chairmanship of the EDC.
Sure.
One of the challenges that I've had as chairman of the EDC is to engage young people to get involved and have passion about local issues and participate. And it's hard, you know, it's hard to show this as a welcoming space in the political climate that it's been in, you know. But I've had some success. We have some younger members who have joined the EDC recently, and that's...
Well, let's go to the phone. Good evening. You're on City Focus.
Hey, Marty, how you doing?
Good. What's up?
But I had a question for Bob. I just heard him talk about something to do with Branford or whatever, which again is Groton. I'd like to know what he would do with this public benefits charge on the electric bills.
Well, I think we should get rid of that.
Yeah, well, how you propose to do that?
Well, as a state rep, I'm going to be one of many up there, so I would sit with my colleagues and find out what was the rationale, what is it, why was it placed there in the first place, and use the same pattern to get it off there. I mean, we need...
Dublin State Initiative. It's basically for the green program. One other thing, and long story short, even although Eversource wouldn't say that, is those of us that pay our bills every month are paying for people that don't.
Yeah, that's just got to stop. I mean, that's not the right approach to do that. I mean, if you want to help people who are having difficulties paying their electric bill, there are different ways to do that without forcing every ratepayer to foot the bill. That doesn't sound like...
Bad when it was a 1% rate, but now since July of 24, it's almost equivalent every month. I don't know if you see it as your supply charge, almost 28 to 35% of the bill.
Yeah, it's outrageous. And again, this gets me back to how do we get here? Like, who thought this was a good approach? Who thought this was a fair way to treat taxpayers and ratepayers in Connecticut? And maybe we, you know, name and shame a little bit. If that needs to be the way to shake it up and get this addressed and changed quickly so it stops costing everyone.
Is this an issue that you feel would be a prime issue up in Hartford?
Well, so one of the things I'll promise is every bill and everything I do up there, I'm going to remember costs money. And I'm going to keep that top of mind when I make decisions. Because unfortunately, people forget that. You know, I'm knocking on doors, I'm meeting elderly on fixed income where property taxes going up year over year, even if it's 5% this year, after 5-10 years, a house becomes unaffordable and people have to make tough choices of moving. Like, this can't just keep perpetually going on. So yes, part of...
If elected, I heard you talk about some housing project in Groton, and it's like, just like your predecessors, the 3rd District of New London, that should, in my opinion, always have been in the 39th, so we'd be united, is part of your district. Ever since Moscow, or whatever the lawyer was 20 years ago that represented us, and going to Connolly, nobody's given a rat ass about New London.
Well, John, I outlined that a little earlier in the program, and I haven't seen that woman in 10 years, and she serves up in Hartford and in New London. Now, maybe she socializes over on this side of the
Come
bridge.
around is when they're running, when they have opposition, like her predecessor had. All of a sudden, he decided the necessity to come to New London because he had somebody running against him in the Republican Party. You're right, Marty. Represent this part of in their district, but it's like all they ever concentrate on is Groton, for what I know, over the last 20 years.
Well, if I'm getting a good feel here from Mr. Boris, I don't know if you've watched the whole program, but I think he's he's level-headed, and he's got his eye on our community as well. I mean, he knows he serves on both sides of the river.
Absolutely. And, you know, I don't want to hall pass because you're with my party or not with my party. The bottom line is, you know, hold me accountable. If I'm elected, I'll have, you know, a year and a half of a record. You'll see a voting record. You'll see, you know, you can see my performance and judge me on that.
And the last 4 or 5 emails that I've gotten from them, they talk about everything but addressing this electricity issue.
Well, I think that you've made your point. We've discussed it earlier in the program, and I know over the next 3 weeks when I have the opportunity to chat with Bob that it's an area that I will reinforce.
Well, thanks for taking the call, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Thank you for calling. Another gentleman, he's in the district.
No, but it's very, very important for people to understand that affordability issues are real, and they need to be top of mind for any legislator. Right? We have to remember that people are struggling, and you know, things cost money, and $5 here, 4% here, it adds up, and we have to do a better job of reining it in.
Yep. We're down to our last moment or two. Is there anything you'd like to share with the audience that perhaps we didn't touch on, or just to kind of help close out the program here? I'm tickled to have you in here. It was, I think, a good conversation and discussion, so thank you.
I'm grateful for the opportunity. I just ask voters to give me a shot. You know, I'd be really honored to represent the 40th and you know, show you what I can do and be held accountable for what I achieved. I know I'll do an excellent job. I've got the experience to be successful, and you know, I know where I came from. I don't forget that, and I'm excited. So please get out and vote February 25th, and there's early voting, I think the 23rd?
I think
26th,
it's
yeah.
yeah, Thursday, Friday, the week
Yeah.
before. I'm not sure about Monday, but
Yeah.
I know I'll be working at Nathan Hale School on the 25th as the moderator.
Excellent.
Well, folks, you've been watching City Focus. You've been introduced to Bob Boris, candidate for the 40th District. With that, good night, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.